Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Sam for this one. Amy plays an Incriminate against two of Nick's grizzly bears. She holds priority and responds by playing a murder against one of those grizzly bears. When the Incriminate resolves, what happens? Alright, so Nick is going to be instructed to sacrifice one of those two creatures. Now, if for some reason one of those creatures cannot be sacrificed, say for example because it has an ability that says so, or because it's no longer on the battlefield, well then attempting to sacrifice that creature would not constitute a legal way for Nick to perform that instruction. So, if this play happened as described, then Nick would be forced to sacrifice the one remaining grizzly bears. This is a pretty cool trick because it can, for example, allow you to get around the indestructible ability. Because indestructible does not stop the creature from getting sacrificed, you could target it with the Incriminate and kill the other creature, thereby forcing the opponent to sacrifice the indestructible one. That's a pretty cool trick. I'd like to finish this episode out with a couple of other semantic points that are related to this question. So when Sam submitted it, there was also an additional sub-question that went something kind of like, why would wizards have worded Incriminate this way? Wouldn't it make more sense if they just said something like, target two creatures controlled by the same player? And, that does start to make a little bit of sense, especially when you consider that generally Wizards likes to choose templates that have the shortest number of overall word count. However, if you take a look at how the word target appears on pretty much all cards in Magic's history, you'll notice that the word target is generally being used as an adjective, not as a verb. And so if you were to use this alternate template, you would kind of be using the word target in a non-standard way. If I were going to hazard a guess as to why the game designers did this, I would say it's probably in order to highlight to players that the word target has some sort of a special game meaning that has technical significance, rather than just being used as the normal English word target. Another thing that I'd like to talk about, which has a specific game term, but which people use in the normal English sense a lot, would be the phrase holding priority. Now, I used this term in the very beginning of the episode when I described the play that Amy was making. However, I hear people use this term all the time, and from some of the ones that I've heard, it's pretty obvious that a lot of people are confused about exactly what this term means. So I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight exactly what holding priority is and why it's important. So in order to do that, we're going to need some background in order to support this discussion. Namely, we're going to need to recall a couple of facts about how timing and priority works in Magic. So first of all, we remember that anytime all the players in a game pass priority in a row without taking any game actions, then the top object on the stack is going to resolve. And we're also going to need this fact that says whenever any player plays a spell, then that player is the first person to get priority after the spell has been cast. Normally when the player gets priority this way, it's pretty common that they'll pass priority because they want the spell that they just played to resolve. And so in general, we'll assume that the player is choosing to do that unless they specifically say otherwise, for example with something like hold priority. So now let's put all of that together and see what would happen if Amy were to not hold priority when she made this play. So if she plays the Incriminate and then passes priority, then what would happen is Nick would also be able to pass priority then, because he would be the next person to get priority. And because both players have now passed priority without taking any game actions, that would mean that the top object on the stack, Incriminate, would resolve. Amy would not get an opportunity to play the murder in response to the Incriminate the way she wanted to. So that would mean that in order for this play to work out, Amy needs to hold priority. In other words, she needs to hold priority for herself and do something with the priority that she gets immediately after casting the Incriminate. That way, she can play the murder at that point and know that it's going to be able to resolve before the Incriminate. That's the significance of passing priority and holding priority, and it's the reason why that's necessary to make this sort of play, where you need to play a spell in response to another spell that you've already cast. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.